More about the European Greens and just the Wales Party. But I actually probably most worked with the European Greens before what we now call the Green Party in the United States started. This was like 1982 to 1984, because the Green Party in Europe was part of a international environmental party federation with the Citizens Party, which I was active with. And particularly my wife and I ran the presidential campaign in 1984, and we spent a lot of time with the European Greens in that period of time, and they gave us a lot of support and a lot of help, and they really wanted a green movement to emerge in the United States, viewing us as the belly of the beast, and if they were to be successful, particularly in Germany, which largely, especially with East Germany, was a colony of other countries, they needed us to be successful. As time has gone on, I've seen much more almost antagonism coming out of particularly European Greens to the United States. One, I think they have shifted more to the right than, say, where it was in the 80s. But, they dismiss how we are doing as a party, because without proportional representation, I know your United Kingdom doesn't have either, they're just very dismissive of our effort. But that's my perception. So I'm sort of wondering, what do the European Greens at this point think about the Greens here in the United States, and why aren't they willing to provide more assistance to developing the Greens here in the United States, where in the 80s that was a major focus of their efforts?
Yeah, okay, well, I can only guess because I don't know the answer. But there's a big cultural difference between the way politics are done in Germany and the way they're done here. I certainly know that I was over there the day before the elections 4 years ago in Germany, and what they tended to do, because you've got to remember, a lot of Germans don't have a television. It's true. They're not interested in that, So in the main square of every town in Germany, the politicians set up shop. They have like a counter and a gazebo, and they're all the same, more or less. And they set up shop in the middle, and people come and talk to them, and go pick up a leaflet and go to the next one, and so on. So it's like shopping for politics. But it's very, very open, and you're not seen as being bipartisan if you go from one stall to another. You don't get labelled and shot in the back. And so the way it's done is much more open and more inclusive. So, I know the ballot box is the ballot box, but the build up to that is quite different. So they don't have this big TV presence. I mean, I was horrified to see an electoral broadcast being entirely about dissing the character of one particular candidate. That was all it was about. It didn't even say vote Republican. All it said was, this guy's a sham, this guy's this guy's... And I was horrified. This is not within our sphere of understanding why you would take the precious part of an electoral slot, because remember, funding is capped in most European countries. So you only got so much money to go around, even if you are the richest, even if you reach the top. That's where it stops. So you would have this precious thing which you're allocated party political broadcast. You can't buy it, and you're allocated on the basis of how many votes you got and how many members and what proportion of the population voting. There's about 5 different criteria. So some get 1, some get 2. The Greens get 1, and the Tories and Labour get 2. Okay, and that's it. It's a totally different sort of setup. I mean, you guys seem to be able to run ads on anything at any time, which is shocking in many ways. And also the content is very shocking. To me, you're all used to it. I'm not, and I find that really shocking that you could spend like a whole 3 minutes, darkening the character of someone who probably doesn't deserve it. It's just a crazy way. But that's, Trump has opened the door on. I read yesterday, which was John, one of John's Facebook posts, a Glenn Ford piece in Black Alliance,
Black Agenda Report.
Black Agenda Report, sorry, which was really, really interesting on you know, the way politics has been done and how it's moved around here. I mean, Glenn's a really good writer, and I've really got a lot of time for him. But oddly enough, he didn't even mention climate change. He didn't realise that, you know, the polarisation of people under the political system, under the media manipulation, under everything that you've got going in this country at the moment, is going to be made much worse by climate change. Because you're going to have people in the south who are not so well off, tend to be more black, who are going to suffer first, because the desertification of this planet is going to come in that direction. There'll be other things happening in the north which we may not like. I mean, you know, crops getting flattened, there's going to be crop shortages for sure. I mean, happening now, it's going to happen, the price of food's going up, the price of food goes up, it, you know, affects the poorest in our population, and possibly Latinos and blacks over here. I mean, we don't have quite the same, we don't have this colour thing going in the UK. But the fact of the matter is that when we're now talking about the crises that are facing us, we have to include climate change as one of them. And it's going to affect one tranche of the population infinitely more than the other. So, you know, the white supremacists, the ones who just went to sleep for a while, they never went away, they just woke up under Trump. You know, they're going to make sure it's their business to get the upper hand under everything that gets thrown at them weather-wise, and I think that's going to be a huge problem. I think that's going to be see massive hardship. It frightens me, it really does, because I see the racism in this country, and if it gets worse,
well, just getting back to Mark's question, what is the cultural difference perhaps between European Greens, Germans specifically, and the U.S. Green Party?
Well, I wish I knew, and I wish I could be specific, but I can't because I don't know. I think that there is a wide feeling that the German Greens have moved slightly to the right, but I'm not entirely sure about that myself. I haven't seen that. I've seen what they have done is try to work with the system that they had, and they've done it successfully. That might have meant moving slightly to the right, but it doesn't seem to have been at the cost of the environmental position that we as Greens hold.